Okay, number 8.
Let me make sure everybody has a copy.
We want to keep that one open.
Actually, I think you may come back to it after Paul
Okay.
discusses.
Yeah, let me present what I want to present. And, what we've done to date is basically what was actually spelled out in the plan was taking a chunk out of the first implementation process. And one of the first things recommended in that plan was updating the zoning. And what we did was we took a crack at doing the downtown core because in the plan we thought that needed, I don't want to say an emergency emphasis, but needed immediate attention. Not only because change is happening there already, but also because potential for a huge benefit to the brewers and the rest of the community could happen in that area. What we'd like to do, and this is based on conversations with Pat Leone, Wayne, and advisory committee members from the plan, and advisory committee members from our zoning committee, which includes Wayne, Pat, Ray Brooks, John Wagurski, Jay Mott, and Mark Parrish, and Heather, is carry this new zoning that we've created and has actually been looked at by the county, and actually, I don't want to say toot our own horns, but it has been praised because we have been following our plan and have been following the county's initiative that goes way back to 2001 to emphasize traditional form and development and making development more predictable. And our hope is with this new zoning, that's what we've been trying to do. What we've talked about as a committee throughout this whole process really to date and just recently is looking at the rest of the Hamlet area. And my understanding, I can be corrected if I'm wrong on this, but my understanding is there's more funding based on the original grant that was given to the town. And we believe that the wisest use of some of that money, and it's probably not all, is applying the standards that we started to create in the same format and starting to look at the other areas of the Hamlet study area. Is that to say we're going to have as much detail or rigorous requirements as perhaps the downtown core might be looked at as? Probably not, because there's different characters throughout that area. There's a gateway character area, the Bartel Road corridor, the Route 11 gateway corridor, which we call it, has a distinct character, and we'd like to enhance that as best we can. And then the waterfront also has a distinct character. So this proposal actually builds off what we've already done and kind of brings it to a completion, which comes about in a circle of what we're proposing tonight in the sense of pausing on the downtown core as far as the town board adopting it and waiting until we complete the rest of the Hamlet so we can coordinate new zoning like the plan called originally and come to a more fuller project completion, if you will, which would lead us to hopefully a final vote on adopting all the zoning altogether, which I think is a benefit to the town because rather than doing this piecemeal, you'd be able to see the whole view of this new zoning update in one package. And I think that would be the best for the town, actually.
Yeah, and if I could just comment a little bit too about the reason why we started to do it piecemeal and then perhaps have realized that maybe we don't necessarily need to, is because the original LWRP funds were going to expire at the end of this year. So we were trying to use them up by the end of the year, and implementing one section of the zoning and working on one section of the zoning seemed like a good way to be able to do that. In recent conversations that Paul and I have had with Kevin Millington, who's our main contact at the Department of State overseeing this grant, he suggested that the town ask for an extension to use the funds through the early part of next year. In furtherance of that, Chance sent a letter requesting the extension. The Department of State then came back and said we'd like an additional timeline of projects. Paul put that together. We forwarded that to the Department of State. And so I think it makes sense, and I think Paul's come up with maybe a good idea to put the downtown core on pause, try to get as many other aspects of zoning for the Hamlet as we can in place, and then try to move forward on them all at one time.
The other thing I did mention is there's a schedule for this additional phase on the back page of that proposal. It's an aggressive schedule, but we want to adhere to it based on our understanding from the Department of State, and we think it's doable, and we have high objectives, but if we can't complete it all, we are going to make sure we complete as best we can the most of the study area.
Yeah, and the caveat to that I would give the board is if you're going to move forward and authorize, this process to continue at this point, that it be contingent on the Department of State confirming that the money will be available through next year to pay for it.
And by continuing on and looking at the future areas or the future phases, you're gonna be able to look at the big picture for the whole Brewerton area, not just the downtown core area.
And if I might just add one more thing, and maybe I've already said it, but you can complete the downtown core, and we've done, I think, based on the committee's input, a good job of identifying the best form for the downtown core. But if the rest of it falls apart, and there is already agricultural zoned, it's general commercial, it's kind of sporadic around that Hamlet area. If you don't take care of that around there, it may be detriment to the downtown core. So I do think it's beneficial if we look at these additional areas.
Chief has something to say.
Yeah.
The only thing that I just want to make everybody aware of is that, obviously for this LWRP grant, we had the $125,000 and we have monies left to use for it in this year's budget, okay? But there's no money budgeted for next year. I just want you to know that. So obviously anything that occurs and that we can get done by 12/31 and that's done and billed, I can do that in January and get the money. We have received monies in this year. We put 2 payments through, and I have received over $62,000 back for it. So we are getting monies back, and I have 2 more payments out, and we will have another. But I just want you to be aware, in the budget that we just adopted, there's no money for any additional grants.
So that's what you're saying, then it's contingent on,
But if it's a matching grant, that
Oh, I see what
means,
you're saying.
see, like this was a matching grant, $125,000 from the state,
you don't have
$125,000
to
town of
match
Cicero.
them.
We had the money budgeted from last year and this year. We did part last year and we finished it out this year, hopefully. But Steve does not have any money budgeted in for a matching grant for next year, and I just want you to be aware of that.
We have to hope for a lot of in-kind services.
And that can be true because I know that they can do that, but I just want you to know that we don't have it in the budget for next year, so it's not like I can easily just tell you, we can go ahead and spend that money once we do January 1. We do have money to spend this year and to get for this grant, so I think it's a good idea to do that and to max out the the grant money and get it back. We are receiving funds back in, so they're quick to do this now once we've done that. I just want you to be aware of it.
New resolution, correct?
I
The public hearings, we just,
I would suggest maybe just closing this public hearing, and then when you're ready to move forward with multiple phases of zoning together, just reopening and having that be a part of the new public hearing. So I'd recommend closing this one.
Close the public hearing at this time.
Yeah.
and then we need a motion to defer this for a further date, or is that not necessary?
If you'd like to move forward contingent on, the money being there to move forward, and with the intent to get as much as possible done before the end of this year, I think that would be
Okay.
appropriate.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Tarwacki?
Yes.
Mr. Rybak?
Yes.
Mr. Coro?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.